Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, so that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. So let's review. Using this little figurine that I drew, don't laugh at my drawing, you can laugh. There's a great image, and this image has a golden head, chest and arms of silver, a belly and thigh of bronze, legs of iron, and feet of part iron and part clay. Then there's a stone that's cut out without hands that hits the image at its feet. And then the wind blows, and the broken pieces of the image are moved away like chaff. And then this stone, which hit the image at its feet, all of a sudden becomes a great mountain and fills the whole earth. So here we have the dream in its entirety. The image, all of the different materials it's made of, and then its destruction, and then a great mountain fills the earth from that stone, cut out without hands. So this is a pretty peculiar dream, and now we're about to find out from Daniel what the interpretation is. Praise God that the answers are in the chapter. Verse 36, this is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. So just like Daniel said when he was praising God, God sets up kings and takes them down. And God has authorized for Nebuchadnezzar to have this kingdom. Though the warriors may fight and the politics may go, whatever it may be, God has allowed this king at this time to be in rulership with this kingdom, Babylon. And he has power, a powerful kingdom able to take possession of lands, strength to crush enemies, and glory, a glory. Verse 38, and wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. Just as gold shines unlike any other metal, the glory of Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom was compared to gold. This kingdom has the characteristics of gold. Just as God's glory in Exodus 34 is proclaimed, it's kind of the same thing here. Verse 39, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. So we have these four characteristics: power, strength, glory, and rulership over the children of men. And the glory is inferior in the next kingdom. If Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold, this next kingdom must be the chest and arms. It would be inferior in glory to Nebuchadnezzar. And just as God's character is attached to his glory, the characteristics and morals of this kingdom would be less and inferior, as well as the kingdom's glory and appearance. And the third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Just as Nebuchadnezzar had powerful enough to take over the earth and take possessions of land, this third kingdom will bear rule over all the earth, not just the people. So this kingdom would push the limits of the kingdom past these previous kingdoms. Verse 40, and the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron. What does that remind you of? Yes, the strength that Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom had. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. This fourth kingdom will highlight the strength. It will be more powerful than any other kingdoms, or more strong than any other kingdoms, in that it will destroy and crush enemies. Verse 41, Whereas thou sawest the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. So here we have a divided kingdom. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So we have a divided kingdom at the tiptoes and the feet of the image. And it would be divided. And it would have a little mix in the iron and the miry clay. So the potter's clay and iron are talked about as strong and broken. But then, whereas thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Here we'd have all of a sudden the seed of men, the children of men who are usually being ruled, all of a sudden they will have some act or part to play at the feet where it deals with the miry clay and the iron, or rather the toes. And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So these two kings of iron and potter's clay, God will come in, the God of heaven who gave this dream. He will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed. And the kingdom will not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. Here we have Daniel is confident that God has given him the dream and the interpretation. The image would be hit in the feet with these two different kings of different materials, and then all of a sudden this kingdom will last forever. It will take away all the other kingdoms. And Nebuchadnezzar's response is interesting. He fell upon his face, worshipped Daniel, and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is, that your God is a God of gods, and a Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, seeing that thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and the chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king. Here we have Daniel being extolled and given great gifts and blessings and rulership in this kingdom. He is a captive of Israelites, and now he has been honored because he honored God in Daniel chapter 1, and because he spoke for God in Daniel chapter 2 to reveal the secret that God wanted to give to Nebuchadnezzar. Here we have the dream and the interpretation, but let's dig deeper. What exactly are these kings and kingdoms? We have a clue because we know that Nebuchadnezzar is the first king or kingdom. Why does King Nebuchadnezzar represent a king and a kingdom? Well, in verse 39 it says, And another third kingdom of brass. The second one must have been of silver, and the first one must have been of gold. So even though it says king or kingdom, it makes sense because a king does represent his kingdom. Just as a person in charge of America, when you see that person, you think of, oh, America. It's the same thing with Nebuchadnezzar. When you think of Nebuchadnezzar, you think of Babylon. So each image metal represents a king and a kingdom. So let's go from Babylon through history.